Universal Audio makes a lot of tools for making music. Outboard gear, microphones, pedals. But until recently, to use Universal Audio plugins, you needed some sort of hardware piece to make them work. But once they introduced their plugin subscription service Spark, all of that changed. So in this video, I'm going to give you my honest review of what it's been like using it for the last year. The highs, the lows, and I'll show you what these actually sound like. Let's go. What's up, you guys? How's it going? I'm Brad Dollar. Welcome to the channel. It's great to see you. Before we get too far into this, if you can do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe and the like button, I'd super appreciate that. So thanks for doing that. Let's keep going. So one of the best parts about what's actually included in UAD Spark is that it's always changing and growing. I was sold on this really early on with just the few plugins it included in the beginning. So the fact that it's expanded to have this many is one of the main reasons I've held onto the subscription as long as I have. So let's browse through what's in here right now. First off, one of the big selling points with this pack is that there are software instruments included. There's a Rhodes, a Moog, their Opal morphing synth, which is kind of modern sounding. It's probably their best contestant to Serum or something like that. The Polymax synth, which is a very analog inspired software synth. The Ravel Grand Piano. And the Waterfall B3 organ. So a really nice host of keys that if you were building out a real studio, you would definitely want one of each of these flavors. The Electra 88 Vintage keys in particular has some cool like amp modeling and is one of the better Rhodes simulators I've heard. Moving on to the audio effects, they include an 1176 collection, they've also got the API 2500 bus compressor. The API Vision channel strip. A model of the Avalon 737. The Brigade Chorus, which is like a Boss Chorus pedal simulation. Capitol Chambers, which is based on the Capitol Chambers at Capitol Studios in Los Angeles. This one Al Schmidt had a hand in designing. The Capitol Mastering Compressor. Their Century Tube channel strip. the DBX 160 compressor, an Empirical Labs distressor, which is one of their more recent additions, as well as their Fairchild limiter collection. In terms of delay, there's not a lot of options, but they do have the Galaxy Tape Echo, which is basically a Roland Space Echo. And then bringing up the rear is the Helios Type 69 preamp and EQ. The Hitsville EQ collection, which is basically modeled after the EQs from Motown Studios. Also from Motown, you have their Hitsville reverb chambers. It of course includes the LA3A. An LA6176. The Lexicon 224 digital reverb. The Manley Massive Passive EQ in both mixing and mastering format. The Manley 2 preamp and the Manley Vox box are both in here, as well as the Very-Me, which I think is also one of the best bus compressors and overall program compressors that's ever been made. It's also got some tape simulators, the Oxide tape recorder and the Studer 800 tape recorder. The Studer is more real to life. It's more, no pun intended. The Studer is more like real life. It is based off of a 24-track machine. And is a lot more subtle than the Oxide tape recorder, which is a lot more of like an effect. Both plugins are great, but I love that Studer 800. And they also recently added the Ampex ATR 102, which everyone pretty much has always told me is the best tape simulation that they make, and they finally put it in this subscription pack while I was making this video. We've also got their Pultec collection. The Pure Plate reverb. They also recently added the Sound City Studios Reverb. I made a full walkthrough of that plugin, which you can check out right here, and I'll link it in the description below. They've got the Studio D chorus. They've also included their LA 2A collection. They truly sound like the real thing, and these three all have different flavors. Then we've got their Universal Audio 175B and 176 compressors. Their recently released Verve analog machines, which are sort of like a whole bundle of sounds in different sort of flavors that will give you a certain environment really quickly. They give you a Neve 1073. And of course, their waterfall rotary speaker, which is basically like a Leslie simulation. It's a lot of stuff. In terms of how they run and what they're actually doing under the hood, it's pretty much the exact same. Obviously, running plugins on your native processing is limited to how powerful your computer is. Whereas with the Apollo and satellite hardware accelerators that they provide for the classic UAD plugins, you know exactly how many you're going to be able to open. And this is where the two split off for me in terms of what I prefer. There are still some UAD plugins that aren't included in Spark that I still use my Apollo for, like the Lexicon 480L reverb. That thing is amazing. At the same time, when I put that 480L on, it maxes out a huge portion of my available processing from the UAD units, which puts me right back into working natively. Whereas on my very standard MacBook with the Spark subscription, I can run all the reverbs they have with no problem, including Capital Chambers, which the real version on UAD is also processor intensive, and I could never imagine running multiple of those at the same time. But in Spark, I can run that, Sound City, the Motown reverb chambers, and then all the other stuff that I want to as well. So that already puts more points in my book for this subscription setup. There is a chance that in terms of cost, paying into a subscription service may end up being more expensive than just buying the plugins in the first place. But the thing that's always held me back from buying plugins is that every time you buy a new computer, every time that software changes, you have to upgrade. Unlike buying a real 1176 or a real 480L that will always work and always do what it's supposed to, as long as you keep it in good maintenance, you might invest in a plugin that in just a few years is not compatible with the computer that you have. You may need to upgrade your computer and your software and your interface for a whole other set of reasons that has nothing to do with your plugins. But now, unless you want to just not open up any of those old sessions, you're pretty much stuck with just buying these plugins again. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'd rather just put that into real gear and buy a bunch more of these. And moreover, sometimes plugin companies go out of business. I used to use the Acusonus Era tools, and now they don't exist and aren't even supported. So having a subscription service where I'm not locked into any set amount of plugins for any set amount of time is worth it to me. At the very least, get a trial subscription and check it out. That way you can see what each one sounds like. And then of course you can still use your regular UAD plugins in tandem, especially in console. They both work totally the same. All right, so what's the final verdict? Is UAD Spark worth it? For me, after a year of using it, it comes down to this. For the amount of plugins you get, the level of flexibility that you have, the freedom to change out your system and go anywhere with your plugins at any time, and the cost, all adds up to be a really bang for the buck scenario. And as a result, I'm a big fan of it. And I appreciate that it keeps growing with my own needs. So I highly recommend it. All right, you guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful and that it gave you a better idea of what UAD Spark is really like. I think for the price, what you're getting, and the overall flexibility, it's really hard to beat. But let me know what you think. Are there other plugin subscriptions that you love? Drop it in a comment below. I'm always open to check those out too. So thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe and like. I'd love to see you back here again. Till next time, take care. Bye.